We are joining you today from Louisville, Kentucky, but like the rest of the country, we are riveted right now by the story of Suzanne Simpson and this tragic, tragic case that has just come to light in all of the things that we are discovering and learning about this man who has just been charged with murder for his wife, whose body has yet to be found. So Kristi has done hours and hours worth of research about this case, and people have so many questions about how this came to happen. Weren't there signs? How this woman and mother of four was not able to get out of this situation.
How was her voice silenced for this long?
Right.
For 2 decades.
An affluent family, connections, friends, neighbors.
Right.
All the escape strategies that you might think one would have. But she didn't get out. She did not make it out alive.
No.
And we're going to learn what led up to her disappearance and what's transpired since her disappearance.
And although the police and the investigators and the Texas Rangers do not have a body yet, they have gone ahead and charged him with murder. Because obviously they have some information pertaining, and everything adds up towards him. So his own family has come out, his brother, and said, do the right thing. Please stop making this family suffer. His oldest daughter came out and
begged him.
Yeah, begged him. The fact that this woman had habitually been abused for over 20 years, and she was silenced.
All right, so take us to the facts. Let's get into it. There is a whole timeline
Right.
that, sometimes it's just a matter of minutes.
On October the 6th, they had gone to a private social club, think country club without the golf course, and it's called the Argyle, and it's in Alamo Heights, and it's in San Antonio.
So she, Suzanne, and her husband, Brad.
Right. They had attended a party at the Argyle, private dinner, before returning to their home. The fighting started at the restaurant, and it continued on to when they got home. Brad claimed that his wife lost her cell phone was at a local HEB minutes after leaving the party. Suzanne is seen at the local HEB with her young 5-year-old daughter, according to the affidavit. After leaving said HEB at 9:15, Suzanne used the cell phone that he said she lost to call her best friend and say, I'm bringing the baby and I'm coming to stay at your house. And that was around 9:15. At 9:16, she called her mother to say that Brad had just assaulted her. Now, he also learned that Brad would gaslight her. He would do horrible things to her. He called the phone company within minutes after that, when he had no control, and said, cut off my phone. It's in my name. I lost it. We can't find it.
So he had the service to his wife's cell phone stopped.
Yes.
On the evening of the fight.
On the evening of the fight.
October 6th.
Yes. So it was, the cell phone was suspended, quote, at the request of the subscriber at around 9:18 on October the 6th, contradicting what Brad Simpson's initial statement that she had lost her phone inside of HEB. A neighbor told police that at around 11 o'clock, he heard an argument outside of his bedroom window that became much more profound and louder, and it seemed to be getting closer to his window. When the neighbor looked out of the window, he saw the Simpsons in a physical altercation, and an arrest warrant affidavit stated. He said Suzanne Clark Simpson was trying to get away from Brad as he overpowered her and pulled her back down. It appeared Brad Simpson was clearly attempting to keep Miss Simpson from running away. The neighbor told authorities all of this in the affidavit, and it was on a Ring camera.
Well, and from all the videos and pictures I've seen, this is a big guy, and she's
Yeah.
a tiny, tiny woman.
She's tiny. I think I heard somebody say she was like 110 pounds, but he was like 6'2", big.
Okay, so nothing to snap her in half or
Right,
subdue her or
absolutely.
keep her on location.
Yes, and he said the neighbor told authorities he saw the couple in the driveway, and the neighbor went outside to investigate. And a short time later, he heard at least 3 screams from a bushy area of Greenbelt behind their home. About an hour later, the neighbor saw Brad Simpson start his black late model GMC pickup truck and leave the house in a hurry. The neighbors told authorities he saw Brad return 2 hours later. The neighbor did not call the police, but told them the account was questioned at a later date.
Well, and just a little bit of my 2 cents from, because I've heard a lot of backlash for this neighbor. Everybody's angry that this neighbor didn't call the police.
Right.
Having witnessed and lived amongst domestic violence to this degree, there's a lot of people who are aware that sometimes when law enforcement's called, the violence actually does escalate.
Right.
Now, in this situation, it's heartbreaking to say, what if law enforcement had been called that night? Maybe
Right.
he wouldn't have actually proceeded to hypothetically or, murder his wife, who is now no longer with us.
Right. So that happens that night. So Monday, October the 7th, the warrant states that on the morning of October 7th, Brad dropped off his young daughter at school, and the bed of his truck contained at least 2 large commercial white trash bags and a large igloo ice chest. Around 9:15 that morning, Brad went to Whataburger in Bernie, and the bed of his truck contained 3 trash bags, a large heavy-duty trash can, an ice chest, and a large bulky item wrapped and secured in a plastic blue tarp.
And wasn't there also like an iron
Yes.
fireplace?
Fireplace a rack on top of it. At around 9:53 that morning, a geolocator pointed Brad Simpson at a Home Depot in Bernie, where video surveillance showed he purchased 2 bags of cement, a construction bucket with a lid, and a box of 32-ounce heavy-duty trash bags, and a few bottles of Clorox disinfectant spray and an insect repellent, according to the affidavit.
This is new news.
While in the parking lot of the Home Depot, he asked a random man for directions to the nearest dump in Bernie.
So this man took his daughter to school that morning
With her mother's body in the car.
truck. And then got a sandwich.
Yeah. After leaving the store, Brad intentionally placed his phone in lockdown mode after he spoke with the man in the parking lot. At some point, Brad Simpson's truck was seen leaving a waste site in Bernie. He then headed to a gas station in Bernie and bought 2 one-gallon jugs of water. Surveillance footage showed the trash bags were no longer in the bed of the truck, but he still had the blue tarp, firewood rack, and large trash can. He also had changed his shoes from flip-flops to cowboy boots, specifically work boots. After he left the gas station, he headed westbound from Bernie in Kendall County to Bandera County, which is right next door. At 1:41 p.m., a license plate reader captured Brad Simpson's truck heading back to Kendall County. At that time, the blue tarp was no longer visible in the bed of his truck, and the fire rack was repositioned.
You know what's the most heartbreaking about all this? Is the last conversation her mother had with her was listening to the sound of fear in her daughter's voice, knowing her daughter had just been assaulted, and that mother said, after we hung up the phone, I knew that my plan was going to tell my daughter, pack up your kids, you move in with me, and we will figure this out together.
Right.
He didn't have to kill
No,
her.
he didn't.
If you don't love somebody, set them free.
At 3 p.m. that Monday, the school where the Simpsons' children are students called Brad and advised him that their child had not been picked up. An affidavit from October the 9th states Suzanne Simpson typically picks up their child from school. He reiterated this to the police. Around 3:30, Brad arrived to pick up the child, and the bed of his truck did not contain the firewood rack. Surveillance video showed he did not have the heavy-duty trash can nor the ice chest at the time. At 4:10, Brad went to a car wash and cleaned out the truck inside and out. The video shows dried cement splashes near the rear passenger compartment and the bed. Only now was the ice chest visible inside the bed of the truck. On the night of October 7th, a friend of Suzanne Simpson called Brad about concerns about her disappearance. She still had not been reported.
By her husband.
No. At that time, he had not called the police or 911, and he told authorities he saw his wife that morning, October the 7th, when he was leaving to drop their child off at school, and he was letting her sleep in.
Not suspicious at all for a woman who always
Right.
dropped her children off at school.
Her best friend ended up calling the police at 10 o'clock that night to report her missing. At 10:30, Brad followed up and reported her missing by leaving a voicemail at the station. Tuesday, October the 8th. At some point, Brad Simpson became uncooperative with investigators and failed to show up for an interview. Police learned that he relocated to a property in Bandera. Investigators questioned Brad Simpson's brother, Barton, who told police that Brad had called him and apologized and cited some problems and apologized for any that he may have caused. So now at this point, his brother's confused.
Like, you just calling me out of the blue?
Out of the blue to apologize. Yeah, you're a 55-year-old man. He said right after that, on October the 8th, Brad texted James Val Cotter, a longtime business associate. And he says, if you're in Ventura, can you haul ass and meet me at your house? I don't have much time.
So this is a text exchange between
Yes.
the two. Okay.
Which he ended up erasing all those.
Newsflash, anybody who wants to murder somebody, you can't get away with this stuff anymore, okay?
Cotter responded, I'll be there in 40 minutes, which is about the distance it takes to get there. Simpson responded, okay, make sure and leave all that crap in the pump house, especially the gun.
That's what Cotter says to Brad?
No, Simpson responded to Cotter and told him
Gotcha.
to hide this evidence. Cotter says, get over here, I won't tell anyone. Cotter, Brad, you're my brother. At 4:30 p.m., police interviewed staff at the school of where their child attends. The child told staff that her parents had been fighting and that her dad assaulted her mom and took the phone away. The child also said Suzanne Simpson had bruises and a serious injury on her elbow. Wednesday, October the 9th. 12:42 a.m., police obtained an arrest warrant for Brad Simpson on charges of assault, family violence, and unlawful restraint. He didn't appear surprised at the time of the arrest, the affidavit states, adding that authorities noticed lacerations and bruising all over his arms and hands. He also appeared unconcerned and showed little emotion about her disappearance. At 1:30 a.m., Texas Department of Public Safety and Kendall County Sheriff's Office took Brad into custody near 542 East Mile Marker on Interstate 10. Brad Simpson was booked into the Kendall County Jail at 4 a.m., and his bond was later set at $1 million. The police chief held a media briefing announcing the arrest of Brad Simpson. The police chief, Villegas, mentioned that investigators found 2 items in the woods, but he did not offer specifics. He said he was not able to determine yet whether or not they were connected to the disappearance of Suzanne Simpson. Texas Rangers executed a search warrant at a home in Bandera and located a burn site with burned laptops and multiple cell phones belonging to Brad Simpson. 2 notes recovered from one of the cell phones were titled "This Next Life" and "Last Will and Testament." The notes included apologies for physically assaulting his wife in August of 2023 and again a few days prior on October the 6th.
So he's trying to burn his own evidence that he had written apology notes to his wife for physically assaulting
Yes.
her. Okay.
So, on Thursday, October the 10th, the Texas Rangers searched Brad Simpson's vehicle. Stains from his vehicle tested positive for blood, which was later determined to belong to Brad Simpson. In the morning, police took down the crime scene tape from outside the Simpson home and opened the East Olmos to traffic again. They condensed their command post to an area within 1 block of the east contour. At 8 a.m., a detective confirmed in a phone call that the investigators completed a search of the home, but declined to offer any details on what may have been found. Brad Simpson was taken to Bexar County Jail in San Antonio after being transferred from Kendall County Jail. An affidavit revealed Brad now faces federal charges for illegally owning a modified short-barreled automatic rifle. He faces up to 10 years in federal prison and a $250,000 fine. The charge of the reason Brad Simpson has a federal detainer on his release from the Bexar County Jail.
Okay, but let's talk about how they were able to ascertain that weapon.
Yes, so they're not saying that that weapon may have been used to unalive his wife, but he illegally owned it. It was a modified AR-15 and sawed off, in which it wasn't registered and it was illegal and it's made in China.
Well, and I have to give props to the law enforcement. When you look at the timeline of how all this went down, the fact she wasn't actually even reported missing until the evening of the 7th.
Right.
He was arrested by the 10th. Within those
really almost, no, I mean, at the end of the night on the 7th, so you might as well say the 8th.
Right. So literally in like 48 hours, these police officers are able to get security video. They're able to get, text message exchanges.
Right.
They're able to go to his business partner's home with a search warrant because they know he's...
And here's the caveat. So they were searching through the home, and there was a TV in, I guess, some room, and they had brought a firearms canine. And the canine kept hitting on the TV. So they took the TV off the wall to reveal a hidden panel, and that's where the firearm was hidden up in the wall.
I mean, we tell everybody all the time, listen, and honestly, they might not have been able to make that arrest for murder.
Without the canine.
Well, yeah.
Right. Okay, so October 21st, a longtime business associate of Brad's was now arrested on felony charges. James Val Cotter, 65, faces felony charges of tampering with evidence and the intent to impair an investigation. Jail records show that Cotter faces a felony charge of possession of illegal prohibited weapons. Brad Simpson's business partner was arrested that day. So now, October 23rd, which is a Wednesday, Texas Rangers interviewed Suzanne Simpson's personal banker on October 23rd, and the banker said Suzanne made an outcry for domestic violence in August. She added that her husband would commonly take her phone away, according to affidavit. She told her banker, "If I ever go missing, look for me in the bottom of the lake." One friend told authorities that Suzanne Simpson knew her husband tracked her cell phone, and she knew him to be extremely violent and jealous. After an incident in September 2023, Brad sent a text message to a friend that said, quote, I still feel bad about last night. I never should have grabbed her phone out of her hand. Thursday, October 24th. The Bexar County District Attorney Joe Gonzalez challenged a motion to change Brad Simpson's bond conditions. Simpson is seeking to amend bond conditions to have contact with his 4 children. The DA's office declined to comment further since this case is pending. So, we are now basically at 1 month since she disappeared in this timeline. October 25th, Val Cotter, the man that was hiding the gun, his attorney, Robert Maher, told KSAT News Cotter had been sitting in a holding cell since his arrest on the 21st. Maher demanded changes to his client's conditions at the Bexar County Jail and accused DA Joe Gonzalez and Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar of trying to coerce Cotter into cooperating. Cotter appeared in front of a pre-indictment court judge, Miguel Noguera, in an effort to get the bond. Tuesday, October 29th. Brad Simpson also said that Suzanne was probably just in Austin with her sorority sisters because it was her happy place.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Right.
Hold on.
And
okay.
at that point, at that point, his attorney ordered him to shut up and stop talking.
Okay, so on October 29th,
Right.
you are talking now 23 days since she has disappeared. Her husband's going to come out and say out loud she's probably just in Austin with her sorority sisters, a dedicated wife and mother, because she never left, who always took her children to school, has a 5-year-old daughter that depends on her.
The oldest one's 20
Right.
and 2 in between.
But she's just going to take off for 26 days. Wait. 23 days and just bounce out of town and go hang out with some sorority sisters. Not have cell phone. I mean, how stupid is
Not
this
call
Brad
her
Simpson?
family.
Right. And I think I overheard somebody saying that he made these claims that she had gone into hiding, she had gone underground. Any woman who has been in a situation of domestic violence, her first concern is often her child or her children.
She never would have left.
No, she knows this. If I'm not here to take the brunt of the abuse, who else is going to take it?
Right.
She's not going to abandon her children.
Right. On Monday, November the 4th, Val Cotter had a bond hearing where Cotter's attorney, Robert Maher, argued for a reduction of Cotter's $1 million bond, calling it unconstitutional. A decision was not made and rescheduled date was not assigned, and Cotter's mother is expecting to testify in regarding his financial situation. In the meantime, Suzanne Simpson's 20-year-old daughter, Chandler, posted a series of stories on Instagram about her mother's disappearance and spoke out against domestic violence. One of the Instagram stories alleged that her father, Brad Simpson, quote, took my mother's life in a state of rage and control. The daughter thinks women within the Alamo Heights community are told to keep quiet regarding DV and encourages women that they must make their voices heard before they end up like a statistic.
How many women do you and I know right now, hold on, that are victims of domestic abuse that are still living amongst domestic abuse?
Quite a few.
I can't count them. I need more than my 2 hands.
Right.
So for everybody who's saying, oh, it's not really as bad as you think, no, it's worse than you think.
Right. So now, 1 month since her disappearance, 12:32 p.m., Judge Miguel Noguera quietly makes the decision to reduce the bond for Val Cotter from $1 million to $100,000. At 1:15, a convoy of DPS, San Antonio, Olmos Park PD police, Bexar County Sheriff vehicles were leaving the east side of the Bexar County Jail. Bexar County officials confirmed that Simpson was taken out of jail for further questioning by the Texas Rangers. At 4:10, Brad Simpson was charged in the unaliving of his wife.
So something happened in those 3 hours.
Right. A judge set Simpson's bond charge at $2 million, bringing now his total bond to $5 million. Authorities have not found Suzanne Simpson, but sources said they believe her remains are somewhere in the Bandera area where Brad was headed that night of October the 6th. So, Friday, November the 8th, 2 p.m., Olmos Park and the Texas Department of Public Safety told the public that Brad Simpson was officially charged in this. At 3:25, the Bexar County Sheriff's Office said Cotter was officially released from the Bexar County Adult Detention Center, so he made his bail. Tuesday, November 12th, KSAT obtained an affidavit of Brad Simpson's arrest warrant for unaliving his wife. This affidavit reveals details of Suzanne Simpson's disappearance and evidence that investigators have been piecing together since her disappearance when they found out 1 month prior.
And what's your opinion on Brad Simpson's defense attorney?
He's got a public defender.
I mean,
He can't afford, and I find that, and his family, his brother Barton has kind of been the family spokesperson. He's the one that's come out and said, please do the right thing. Please let us, help us and Suzanne's family start, and your children, start having closure. Do the right thing.
Well, and it's crazy, just like you said, every single person in their friend group, their family group, the school, the network, nobody has really come out and stood next to him and claimed that they think he's innocent.
Right.
The only person that's been on his side is his business partner, who did conceal the weapon.
Right. But now he's got his own set of issues.
Right.
It says Suzanne's family has been outspoken about her alleged abuse throughout her disappearance, including their eldest child, 20-year-old daughter Chandler. Chandler wrote again on social media, as my mother's daughter, I will tell our story over and over, and I will make sure you remember her name. Suzanne Simpson was a victim of abuse and a victim of this community. Beyond being a victim, she was a phenomenal mother, hardworking, driven, loving, compassionate, and kind. She claimed her father took her mother's life in a state of, quote, rage and utter control. A vigil was held for Suzanne where her mother, Barbara Clark, spoke of the haunting phone call she received from her daughter the night of the disappearance. She said that Simpson had severely injured her arm and her back and had repeatedly kicked her in the stomach. I had come up with an alternative plan for her that she could move in with me and we'd have her little toddler go to the elementary school in my neighborhood. I never got a chance to tell her the plan. Simpson is currently being held in jail on bonds of totaling $5 million. His bond hearing is now rescheduled for December the 19th.
There's just no words. There's no words because everybody's thinking the same thing. Here's this fool of a human being who thought he had the power to control the destiny of not just his wife, but his wife, her family, her friends, their children. Like, everybody's life is now forever changed because he couldn't control his temper.
Right.
Because he wanted to own somebody, he wanted to maintain control of somebody, and for whatever reason, he thought if she left, maybe he's going to have to pay her X amount of money of their estate. Maybe he's going to have to, pay for charges for domestic violence because she was going to press charges. Whatever the case may be, in his mind, unaliving her became his best alternative course of action. And to then not have any ounce of remorse, not be able to come forward and give that entire family and their children the closure that they deserve of knowing where her body is. And like Nancy Grace said, she's likely in a dump somewhere. A man who married a woman, they were married for 20 years, something like this? If their daughter's 20, how do you get up? How do you lay next to somebody every single day of your life for over 20 years and say, I love you, let's have 4 children together, let's make this life? and then I'm going to lose my temper and take the last breath out of your body because I deserve it. I deserve to say you don't get to exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
You know, if I just can't stress enough to people, if you yourself are in a situation like this, there is help. There is alternatives. Don't be afraid to speak up. There's no shame.
No, and just a little advice is you have to, I think that escaping relationships where domestic violence is an issue is almost like being a prisoner of war.
Right.
And you have to be strategic in your exit strategy. You have to learn the enemy, and oftentimes that enemy is your spouse or your partner. And there's tons of movies out there, there's tons of resources out there, but yes, it does, like, maybe it's saving change, maybe it's hiding, money in a new bank account, maybe it's, letting somebody know exactly what's going on that is a trusted resource. But the facts don't lie, and that the facts are that when women try to escape relationships where domestic abuse is an issue, that the exit strategy does in fact become the most violent stage of your relationship. And that's often when your life is at danger. So, reach out to us. Like, I mean, I would sit down and help anybody come up with the resources and the plan to escape a domestic violence situation. I mean, and oftentimes women won't even put the plan into action to leave because, again, she has small children. Maybe they have pets that are also the victims of abuse in the home. I mean, there's documents all over that talk about the facts of how difficult it is. But
your life's not worth it.
Exactly. Your happiness is worth more than staying in anything that feels like that.
But it has to be documented. In other words, when these incidents happen, you have to call the police. You have to make a trail of proof, because he may have been doing it for 5 or 10 or 15 years. If you wait till the 16th year to call, that's the first time there's any proof.
Well, and I know, like, you say call the police, but oftentimes it's hard to say because a lot of times maybe there isn't quite enough evidence where the police are concerned to get you in a safe place. But certainly documenting it until you get to a place where you can make an actual arrest.
Right. You have to let somebody know.
Somebody. Form a plan, get a community, find people that you trust, but don't isolate. Don't isolate, and don't think that you deserve to just take the brunt of that abuse because, look, my mother was with a man who threatened to murder us all the time, and she stayed because she did not want us to become victims in a scenario like this. And it's a real case thing, and I pray for the Simpson family. I pray for those children. I pray that they're able to get some kind of closure and that he does confess and let everybody know where she is.
Yeah. My heart goes out to those children and the little one that won't even know her mother. She was 5 years old. And the last images she'll have of her mother
is being scared in an HEB.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, we will come back and cover this case as it updates and changes, and we'll certainly be watching in a few weeks in the December hearing. But in the meantime, sending love and prayers to the family.
And if you're in one of these situations, reach out to us at estrogen@lissenkristi.com, and we will do whatever we can within our power to get you the help that you also need.
Yeah.
Say goodnight, Lucy.
Good night, Lucy.